Morning, everyone. Welcome. Today is Tuesday, March 10th, 2020. It is the 10 o'clock hour. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte and the governing body of all other special assessment and taxing district for which said board so acts is now meeting in regular session. Only those items that indicate a specific time will be heard at the assigned time. All other items may be taken out of sequence to accommodate the public and staff availability. We're going to call this meeting to order. Kylie, would you take roll, please?
Supervisor Howard?
Present.
Supervisor Cowan?
Here.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Here.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Here.
Chair Hemmingson?
Here. Now we're going to take a moment of reflection. Now, if you'll all please stand. Roger, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Introduction of new employees. Do we have any? I'm not seeing any. County Council, any actions from closed session?
No reportable action.
Thank you. At this time, I would request any deletions, corrections, or additions from board members to the agenda. In order to add an item to the agenda, the matter must have come to the attention to the county subsequent to the posting of the agenda, and the matter requires action before the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Are there any such items?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to request the deletion of item number 15 at this particular time. However, I would like to hear those people who are interested in item number 15 to be heard under public comment. But apparently there's a lot of controversy regarding this item, and so I would like to request that we have a meeting in Klamath, probably Thursday or Friday evening at 7 o'clock. Not the full board, just basically myself and one other board member to take input on this item and then bring it back for conclusion next meeting.
Okay, we'll discuss that when we get to that particular item. I'm not going to delete it at this time. We will take it up and discuss it to see if we want to table it at that time. Any other items? Okay. At this time, we're going to receive brief reports, announcements relative to the County of Del Norte programs, projects, progress by 2x2 committees, goal committees, and the like. And we are going to start with Supervisor Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fairly quick week, but active. Attended several meetings of the Chamber of Commerce on putting together their economic summit, which is currently scheduled for March 27th, and helping to coordinate those activities. Had a meeting on the Elk Valley Road corridor. This was our second meeting in a series of meetings to help get community input on hopefully some realignments to make those intersections that extend from Lake Earl all across Highway 101 and Highway 199 safer for the community to travel on. As you're probably aware, many of those intersections have had multiple fatalities over the years and multiple collisions that have resulted in destruction of property. We're trying to be very aggressive through the local transportation commission at tackling these issues for the county and our citizens. Went to Grant Henderson's retirement party. Congratulations, Grant, on your retirement, and looking forward to honoring one of our other deputies today in his retirement, Gene McManus. Attended a local Del Norte County Transportation Commission meeting. Also wanted to congratulate the JCs on another successful year of the JCs basketball tournament hosted here in Del Norte County. And also wish former supervisor Mr. Mike Sullivan a happy 50th birthday. It was great celebrating with him this last weekend. And wanted to recognize, because we don't do it too often, our line staff. Director Heather Snow of our Health Services Department sent a letter to all the board members not too long ago about an example from our Behavioral Health Department and how the attention just to one individual helped turn this child's life around. And I wanted to thank Heather on behalf of the board for sending that letter, because not too often do we get a chance to see staff in action, but more importantly, the reaction of an individual and how that moment in time changed her life for the better. And really appreciate you sending that out to the board. And then also wanted to recognize just briefly, as we'll do in proclamation today, but 9 years ago, tsunami that occurred in Japan, March 11th, 2011, hit that coast of Japan and subsequently made its way to Del Norte County, causing a great deal of damage to property and loss of life. We will recognize through proclamation today that natural disaster 9 years ago, and more importantly, pray for our sister city and pray for our future as it relates to natural disaster. And that's all I have at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you. Supervisor Berkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the opportunity to appear on KFUG radio to discuss my position on several issues that have come before the Board of Supervisors and what I have in mind for where we go from here. I appeared before the Republican women and gave them an update on what the board is doing about a number of issues that the board's interested in, and also gave them an update on the primary election results. Supervisor Hemmingson and I had a meeting with the Future Facilities Committee where we discussed the various options concerning the lease of the child support building, and we also discussed replacing the carpet in the FLID Center. Also attended a Crescent City Rotary Club meeting. Also attended an election night get-together at the Republican headquarters. I'd like to congratulate Darren Short on his election to be the Del Norte County representative for the 1st District. Congratulations. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Gitlin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our local transportation commission met last week, and we approved 2 resolutions to replace a poor, if not non-functioning culvert over Washington Boulevard, just east of Harold Street. That's about a $500,000 cost. The commission also agreed to discuss a problematic intersection at East Washington Boulevard and Parkway Drive at our next meeting. Our Take a Blight Out of Blight crew volunteers finished the project on West Temple. That's about 100 yards west of State Street. Volunteers picked up additional 3+ tons of discards of all imaginable possibilities left by, I can only describe it as a community of irresponsible campers. Remains a few piles of trash to be picked up, which our County Maintenance Department and Code Enforcement will be taking care of. And again, thanks to Sheriff Apperson and the rest of his crew for ridding this area of a real problematic area, and it's now back to its normal pristine status. Our board received a letter from the chairman of the California Conference of Environmental Health, and who happens to be the director of the Yuba County Environmental Health. His name is Mr. Clark Pickel, urging our board to initiate action to support end-of-life services in the form of hospice care. We don't have that here in Del Norte County to any degree. Last year, Del Norte County Environmental Health Director Brian McNally succumbed to cancer. His final wish was to see hospice care introduced in Del Norte County. Mr. Pickel referred me to a gentleman who recently retired from the State Environmental Protection Agency and to whom I spoke with yesterday about coming to Del Norte County and addressing our board on end-of-life challenges and hospice care in general. I must candidly admit I'm lacking in a lot of knowledge on the subject, which obviously affects every one of us in this room, either directly or indirectly, as we lose family members and friends. So on behalf of Brian's memory and his wife, Erin McNally, I would respectfully request our board seek out and learn a bit more and about the support of end-of-life services and hospice care. And finally, on the subject of virus, and more specifically the COVID-19 in Del Norte County, I'm happy to report the one case of coronavirus was determined to be negative, which of course is good news. Nevertheless, it would seem reasonable to assume there will be more cases reported. The case will not be the last one, of course, not only in our county, but throughout our state and country. I know there's a great deal of concern, and rightfully so, about the COVID-19 virus. But I think it's important to place into perspective the status of the virus and its impact on our community. As of this morning, there were 166 confirmed COVID-19 cases in California and 1 death. Agreed, these numbers will probably increase, but by no means is the coronavirus exploded to anything approaching what the United States, California, and Del Norte County have experienced in the recent flu seasons. This year, up to date, 14,000 in the United States, mostly over the age of 65 plus, have succumbed to the flu. The COVID-19 status is nowhere near challenging these past flu seasons. Again, please keep in mind and keep the numbers in perspective. Could conditions worse? Absolutely. They can worsen. But there are only 166 cases in the entire Golden State, which has a population of 40 million. Best advice, and this is, you've heard this before, is if you feel flu-like systems, if you feel flu-like symptoms, stay out of the public, and if these symptoms persist, see a doctor immediately. Of course, normal good hygiene will help keep you out of harm's way. That's my report.
Vice Chair Cowan.
Thank you, Chairman. I had a pretty mundane couple of weeks after the last board meeting. I concentrated on the primary elections. I want to thank all constituents in my area and others who came out and voted. It is our right. Congratulations to Darren for taking over District 1 and Supervisor Berkowitz for moving on, and I have now had the chance to move on into the elections in November. Attended the last games of the rec department, and I wanted to personally thank Kelsey and the staff at the rec department here. They do an amazing job for our kids in Del Norte County, and it's a great program, and she continues to make it better every year. So thanks so much to Kelsey and staff. Had several constituents calls. I was out of town last week, so I did a lot of things over the phone. Also had a brief meeting with McGuire's office with updates on the HAP funds and how that's going to go forward in our community, timelines on that. And met with Daphne with Del Norte Mission Possible. They are now officially nonprofit status by the state. Woohoo! So we're moving forward there, and went over their new service plan and their funding going forward. So we will be having getting a 24-hour homeless shelter sometime this year. I'm very excited about that. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Well, I had several meetings, a lot of them out of town. Had a North Deal meeting with Caltrans. We got an update on last chance grade, which was a lot of the things I reported out on the last meeting. But the HNTB, who is the new contractor consulting firm that was hired to do all the environmental stuff, is doing a multi-year survey of the spotted owl. That has to take place before we can move forward. We're waiting on the Coastal Commission permit for the third phase of the geotech drilling, which is going to be done by helicopter. They're going to drop all the equipment in by helicopter. And another, the repairs that are happening now on last chance grade at the ski, what is called the ski jump, they're going to move that road 20 feet, the center line 20 feet in and 16 feet up. So it'll take care of a lot of that big dip in there. So other things that we talked about, the Collier Tunnel, they've been doing a lot of ventilation work out there. They found about an inch of dust throughout the ventilation system in the tunnel, which ended up being lead from the days of leaded fuel. So I thought that was interesting. That was about a $5 million cleanup for that. And they've put about $9 million into that Collier Tunnel total now for the ventilation. They've got a running backup generator now in case the power goes out, so you won't have to go into that tunnel dark at times. On another notes, the Eureka Arcata corridor, all the permitting is done for that complete project, and they're going to be moving forward with that. The Hunter Creek Panther, or the Hunter Panther Creek Bridge is about a $22 million project. That's going forward. ADA ramps throughout the city. Caltrans is working on that. That's supposed to be completed by 2021. Dr. Fine Bridge, which started out at about a $29 million project, then went to a $50 million project, and now is at $65 million, and they're supposed to start late in 2021. Also had some discussion about turn pockets. It would be nice to have some turn lane, you know, the complete distance from where the 4-lane ends to into and through Smith River on 101, Timber Lane, where Dollar General is located, Denny Road, Wonder Stump Road. A lot of these access roads don't have turn pockets, and they become very dangerous. So we had some discussion about that, and they're going to look into that, and we'll get back to that and see how they do with that. Had a NORTAC ad hoc meeting where we went over all the providers for the 11 counties that are under NORTAC, and made recommendations for the entire board. That'll happen at our next meeting. They're going to negotiate with those providers. As was mentioned, had a local transportation commission meeting. Culvert replacement on Washington Boulevard was the big item. I did agenda review. Future facilities, that was already mentioned. Had a meeting with staff on options for some options out of Pacific Shores to help that area stay clean. We've had some success with the monitoring station that's been out there, but there's a couple other things we'd like to do, so we're going to look into that. I would like to publicly congratulate my granddaughter, Lillian Fawning, who was Student of the Month at Redwood School. I went to that little deal. It was very nice. She was very excited. Not her first time, but she still gets excited every time. Had a risk assessment meeting, a teleconference. It's about a 4-hour meeting. They usually last 4 to 5 hours on whale entanglements and the Dungeness crab fishing. And the risk was determined to be low for entanglement, so we will continue fishing. And our next meeting will be on the 25th of this month. So we'll move on with that. I'd also like to congratulate Darren on his success for that district, and that's it for me. So we will move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item number 6 from the consent agenda.
Okay. You want to pull that for discussion, or you want to pull it for?
Let's, we could discuss it briefly, but decide from there. Let the board decide how best to handle this.
Okay. All right, we will pull that and make a separate item on item number 6.
Other than that, I would make a motion on items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on consent agenda items only?
Hi, I'm Robert. I'm sure this is something you do annually. What is it, item 11? No, item 12. But I just, I think we're doing a little bit too little, thinking about where the coronavirus is going. I could see item 12 being like 10 steps ahead. You know, maybe this is something you guys do every year, but you know, Italy's all on lockdown right now. So I take item 12 pretty seriously. You know, 60 million people, and that started 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we hear these numbers aren't relevant or aren't very big numbers, and I would ask maybe that the treasurer advise you as far as, you know, growth, what sustained daily growth. You know, 10% a day, you take 40 people, you'll have 40 million people in about 190 days just with 10% a day growth. Of course, this isn't the growth of the epidemic, this is the growth of us detecting it, because our healthcare system sucks. And so we're going to have to buy these tests ourselves in the end to actually do the data to figure out how at risk we are. Much, much more dangerous than the flu, and it's been proven in every community it's shown up. So Iran, it's beating the flu by far. Italy, it's beating the flu. Sonoma County, Washington, it's beating the flu. So it's not as bad as the flu until we get it. And then it's much, much more dangerous. It'll be a game of Russian roulette for an elder to get it. Literally a game of Russian roulette. It'll be at best, you know, 1 in 30 chance we're going to die, the average person, when we get this disease. I'm afraid that our incentives of economy locally and at a federal level are going to put our community at risk. I've considered closing my business. These borders that we have on our county, they're arbitrary. They don't really exist. You know, we have 20-something thousand people in our community. Let's just combine the closest 5 counties, and we'll find out we're actually in an epicenter of an outbreak. I really am disappointed to see that we haven't talked about this by now. In 2 weeks, honestly, I don't think I'll want to come into a crowded place like this. So I think now would be a time to start having these discussions. If we just look at the people who come before us instead of, hey, such a small number today, it's a huge number. It's growing at an unsustainable rate within our nation, and I don't see that we're doing anything about it. And I would hate to be like the first thing that we see the county did was that I have correctional officers with badges on, ensuring that I stay home. I'd rather as make sure that Walmart's keeping their sick employees home, and I think it needs to be talked about now, today, 2 weeks ago. Thank you.
Linda Sutter. Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed in the leadership in our community concerning this COVID-19. On February 4th, Public Health Organization, or the World Health Organization, came out and said 25 countries were infected, including Japan. But what do? We send 8 kids out of Del Norte High School, including the principal and one other adult, over in the epicenter of this COVID-19. On the 22nd, they return. And what do? On the 24th, they all go to the public high school. Now it takes almost 30 days. You have no symptoms with the COVID-19. None whatsoever. It just shows up. But now we're all infected. If somebody ends up, we've got 2 more weeks before anything could happen. On the 27th, just a few days after our students return from Japan, Japan closes the entire country, every school in the entire country. But Del Norte County here, what do? We have a JC tournament just last weekend. Woo! Aren't we gracious? I'm just literally disgusted that everybody thinks this is nothing more than the common flu. It is not the common flu. The youngest person in the United States right now is 7 years old. We have a 32-year-old physician's assistant in New York who doesn't even know if he's going to make it in the next few days. Our elderly are the ones that are really going to get sacked. And again, I can't stress this enough. You show no symptoms. And the people that are downplaying this as just a flu, oh, let's see what happens to you. Do you double glove? Do you put on hazardous waste suits and double mask to treat somebody with the flu? No, you don't. You guys, and then you're just putting it on the agenda. You're going to hire a consultant to talk about pandemics. You are so far behind. This is disgusting.
Any other public comment?
Gordon, this is point 2 on consent agenda. Gordon Clay, Chairman of the Curry County Suicide Awareness and Prevention Council, Brookings, Oregon. Question, what are boys less likely to do than girls? Lots of things. Boys have been brought up to be in a culture to stuff feelings. Big boys don't cry, handle it, don't ask for help, man up, and messages go on. So when it comes to self-injury, they go numb. Why should we be concerned? People often keep a secret, but the urge to self-injure isn't uncommon. Over 2 million Americans currently engage in self-injury, while the largest target groups are adolescents and young adults. People of all ages practice self-injury. Myth. One of the misconceptions is that it's only females. While girls 14 to 17 are hospitalized 4 times more often than boys, 30 to 40% of people who self-injure are males, and the highest segment being white male adolescents. Self-injury means hurting yourself on purpose. For boys, the most common method is hitting themselves or an object like a wall or cigarette burns. For the most common among girls is cutting with a sharp object or pulling out hair or picking at wounds to prevent healing. Myth. People who self-injure enjoy the pain or can't feel it. Self-injury most often hurts. Sometimes feeling the pain is the whole point, to reconnect with their own body or just to feel something. Myth. Self-injury is untreatable. Although it can be difficult to control or stop, most people are able to stop at some point. Because it is most often used as a coping mechanism, however, the practice typically does not stop until the individual has methods to cope and is fully ready to stop. Myth. Self-injury is a suicide attempt. Most studies find that self-injury is often undertaken as a means to avoid suicide. What is important to get a handle on is to get a handle on it before the pattern gets well established, since 70% of those with a history of self-injury have attempted suicide at least once. Myth. There's nothing I can do. There are many ways you can help. The easiest is by just listening and be as supportive and understanding as you can. Most importantly, don't give up. Instead of scolding or looking down on someone for doing this, just let them know that you care. March is Self-Injury Awareness Month, so take the time to learn more at zeroattempts.org/selfinjury.html. If you or someone you care about is in crisis and you think immediate action is needed, text SOS to 741-741 or contact your doctor or mental crisis services or go to your local emergency room.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other public comment? Or, excuse me, comment on the consent agenda items? Okay, seeing no other comment on consent agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
could I mention something on the 2 items, both 11 and 12?
Sure.
Either one of those 2 items are actually directly connected with anything to do with the coronavirus. 11 has to deal with the preparation of an emergency operations plan for the entire operational area, which is Del Mar County. It's been in the works for some time, and we've received a grant for it. It covers all emergencies and disasters, and it's a format for all of the responders. It's a process. It sets the basis for all sections that respond to emergencies. And while we have one in place right now, this is an update, and that's why we're going through the process of getting proposals, is to put a new and more up-to-date plan in place. As far as 12, it has no connection with coronavirus. It's a bill that's being responded to through the sheriff's office to allow officers to basically cross jurisdictions. But neither one of those have to do with anything to do with coronavirus directly.
Understood.
And I would caution everybody that while the test did come back negative in Del Mar County, there will be other tests. There very well could be a positive test. The Public Health Department has been engaged for quite some time with the state and the federal government, and the processes that they've set in place are what is being followed. If you have questions directly, about Del Norte County, go to the Public Health Department's website. It will explain everything that you need to know in regards to what the state of California is doing, as well as what directives have been sent down to the local agencies. But I just wanted to explain that because there's some misconceptions about those two items for sure.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that clarification. Okay, bring it back to the board. Kylie, would you poll the vote?
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes, and that was all items on the consent agenda except number 6. We have several proclamations and a resolution. And Supervisor Cowan, you have a resolution dealing with self-injury.
I do. I have the proclamation of Self-Injury Awareness Month, whereas 2 million Americans currently engage in self-injury with methods like cutting, scratching, bruising, and hitting themselves, along with other more harmful methods. And whereas self-injury is used when individuals are unable to handle intense feelings, and so they turn to self-injury as a way to express their feelings and emotions. And whereas self-injury can start at any age, but most people who self-injure start at puberty, and whereas self-injury ranges from 12% to 37% in adolescents and 12% to 20% in young adult populations. And whereas the incidence of self-injury is highest among white male adolescents, and whereas 70% of those with a history of self-injury have attempted suicide at least once, and is highest during the first 6 months after an episode. And whereas those who self-injure report that once they started, it is hard to stop, and that they feel like self-injury takes over their lives. And whereas the need to break down the common stereotypes surrounding self-injury and to educate parents and medical and educational professionals about the condition, and whereas to increase awareness to self-injury as a public health issue that needs to be taken seriously. Now, therefore, the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims March 2020 as Self-Injury Awareness Month. Be it further resolved that the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors encourage all citizens to be informed of the warning signs and address the issue with our youth, passed and adopted, on this 10th day of March 2020.
Okay. Okay, and Roger, you have a proclamation, Professional Social Work Month?
Right, this is a proclamation of Professional Social Work Month for March of 2020. Whereas in the past 100 years, social workers have helped America's leaders weave the nation's social safety net, it is not surprising that social work is currently one of the fastest growing professions in the United States, with social workers employed by many different organizations, industries, including private and public agencies, hospices and hospitals, schools and universities, businesses and foundations, military branches and veteran centers, as well as national with public elected offices. Whereas every day social workers address the emotional, psychological, economic, and/or physical needs of millions of people, and whereas the social work profession creates pathways to full participation in society, and the primary mission of a social worker is to enhance human well-being and help meet the basic needs of all people, especially the most vulnerable, and whereas social workers celebrate the courage, strength, and determination of the human spirit while working to empower others to help, dream, and believe in their own potential so that their families can be reunited and elders and/or dependent adults can be self-sufficient, and whereas social workers help families use their strengths, resilience, and self-advocacy to navigate life challenges and also help them function better in their environments, improve their relationships with others, and solve personal and family problems through a wide variety of services. Now, therefore, the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaim the month of March 2020 as Professional Social Worker Month in recognition of social workers and their commitment and dedication to the individuals, families, and community of Del Norte, and call upon all citizens in the observance and support of social workers, passed and adopted this 10th day of March 2020.
Thank you.
Did you want to say anything? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Katie Sanders. I am a child welfare social worker supervisor for the Department of Health and Human Services.
And I am Melinda Anderson. I am a social worker supervisor in ongoing child welfare services. We appreciate the proclamation and acknowledgement of Social Work Appreciation Month. Our social workers work diligently to promote safety and well-being of children and families in our community. As an agency, we are committed to working alongside our community partners in assisting families in stabilizing and breaking cycles of generational trauma and creating a resilient community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you do. Appreciate it. And Chris, you have a proclamation on tsunami preparedness.
Certainly do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Proclamation of the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors proclaiming March 23rd through 27th, 2020 as Tsunami Preparedness Week. Whereas California's long coastline, its proximity to other coastal states with offshore earthquake faults, and its location on the Pacific Ring of Fire make it vulnerable to tsunamis. And whereas California has been struck by more than 24 tsunamis with waves 3 feet or more in height since 1812, including 15 that have caused damage, including the devastation to the Crescent City Harbor on March 11, 2011. Whereas a dozen residents of Crescent City, California were killed by the tsunami generated in 1964 Alaskan earthquake. And whereas the tsunami is caused by underwater earthquakes and landslides that can occur at any time with little warning, and Crescent City's unique geography increases the area's susceptibility to tsunamis. And whereas recognizing education and awareness are fundamental in saving lives in the event of a tsunami, the County of Del Norte and the City of Crescent City continue to plan and train testing mass notification systems, community preparedness, and response. Whereas the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, the California Geological Survey, the National Weather Service, the County of Del Norte, and the City of Crescent City will test the ability to issue a tsunami warning for Del Norte County via the Emergency Alert System on Wednesday, March 25th, 2020, between the hours of 11 and 12 noon. And whereas the Governor's Office of Emergency Services hopes to expand participation of all coastal cities in the test in 2020 and beyond. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of Supervisors of Del Norte County that the week of March 23rd through 27th of 2020 as Tsunami Preparedness Week in Del Norte County, this day, March 10th, 2020, signed by Chairman Jerry Hemmingson. Jay, I'll hold this onto this for you as the Director of the Office of Emergency Services.
Yes, thanks. I'm pretty sure Kimmy is probably on one of the multiple coronavirus conference calls with the state today.
Thank you. Yeah, I have the pleasure of reading this resolution. This is a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte, State of California, honoring Gene McManus, retiring Sheriff Sergeant. Whereas Gene McManus first affirmed his desire to be a lawman while serving as housing police officer in Los Angeles, California from 1982 until 1987. And whereas Gene moved to Del Norte County in 1987, he successfully completed the Fabulous 50 College of the Redwood Police Academy. He began his career with Del Norte County Sheriff's Office in September of 1987, then promoted to detective in 1995 and promoted to patrol sergeant in 2003. And whereas Gene was assigned as Special Weapons and Tactics Team Commander in 2004, responding to responding and tactically managing numerous high-risk critical incidents apprehensions, and whereas Gene was assigned as range master in 2014, organizing live fire trainings with all firearms deployed in service to the Del Norte Sheriff's Office, in addition to instructing use of force method compliant and department policy and California Commission for Peace Officer Standards and Training recommendations. And whereas Gene served his final years of full-time service to the Del Norte Sheriff's Office as a valuable member of the administrative unit, participating in the management of budgetary concerns, staffing levels, training requirements, personnel issues, and being consistently referred to as the fixer for his sheriff. And whereas Gene also served the Del Norte Sheriff's Office honorably in the roles of field training officer, firearms instructor, impact weapons instructor, defense tactics instructor, and bailiff supervisor, obtaining his post-advanced officer certification. And whereas during Gene's service to Del Norte Sheriff's Office, he was highly decorated with all his roles listed above, being recognized for good conduct, safe driving, multiple criminal investigation awards, numerous merits for excellent arrests, several unit citations, and Sheriff's Award Medal. His bravery and commitment have undoubtedly saved countless lives and helped shape the immeasurable amount of law enforcement personnel. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors hereby acknowledges the diligence and dedication of Gene McManus during his more than 32 years of service to the county. Be it further resolved that the Board of Supervisors expresses appreciation and best wishes to Gene as he enjoys a much-deserved retirement, passed and adopted unanimously by the Board of Supervisors, County of Del Norte, State of California, this 10th day of March, 2020. I know the sheriff has a presentation also, so ask him to come up.
Thank you, Board, for the opportunity to speak. Best I can remember, Sergeant Gene McManus and I met in the 90s. He would tell you that he was chasing me across a school campus. I think it was during a traffic stop, but
Did he catch you?
he didn't catch me either time, so that's why I'm a little fuzzy on exactly when and where it was that I met him. But through the years, I've had the privilege to train alongside of Gene and many times call on him for advice. I definitely consider him a mentor in my career. We did not always agree, which is one of the reasons that drove me to place him on our administrative team at the Sheriff's Office. I often have ideas that may not shake out well if I'm unsupervised, and Gene was forever that voice that would pick apart an idea. Maybe he had seen some version of it before in his over 30 years of service to our county. He has survived numerous sheriffs during that period of time, and he was always willing to give me that advice, and I valued that immensely. I think I could say a lot about Gene, but I won't. What I will say is, you know, we live in this time of social media and everything has a story and it has a narrative and it has a lot more exposure than we're used to. And for a law enforcement officer in a small community such as ours that has served over 3 decades of active law enforcement service, you take pause when you put that acknowledgement out on social media, because people often can say whatever they want to say on social media. And you would think as a cop for 30 years, people might not always be positive about that. You may or may not have seen the post about Gene retiring. Pretty touching. His last radio call, sort of a tradition in public safety. That was exposed to over 80,000 people viewed that. 80,000 people viewed that 3-minute video. I think we received well over 300 local comments, not one of them negative. Not a single one of them negative. I don't know what else I can say about somebody than 30 years in law enforcement and being that overwhelmingly supported. With that, I prepared a shadow box for Gene. Now, I couldn't fit his career in this building if I had to, but these are just a few of the highlights. Some of these pieces he provided as they were important to him that he had held on to over the years, and others that I was fortunate enough to be able to provide him through his service. What you see in this shadow box on one side are his hash marks. Each one of those lines represents 4 years of service. There's 8 of them. You see his sergeant rank, our current patch, his favorite badge, and in the middle you see these service ribbons. And if you have the code for these ribbons, it decodes his entire career. And it's an incredibly impressive one. So this is really just a drop of water in the ocean, so to speak, when it comes to my level of appreciation for Gene. I want him to know that the doors are always open at the Del Norte County Sheriff's Office. He has agreed to stick around in a retired annuitant capacity, but much more than that, he's family, and I hope to see him often. And Gene, I can't thank you enough.
Gene, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I would.
Great.
It's really hard not to be emotional, but
Understood.
for over 32 years, I've been able to serve this community, and it's been a privilege. It's been a privilege to live amongst the people that I help while I'm doing my job. And there's always little pieces of gratification you get when you see somebody you've helped, turn around and do something better next time. And I moved up here to be able to live and work in the same community rather than commuting 2 hours across town to work in a different community. And I got what I wanted. I really did. And this is my home, and it's been a privilege. And I want to thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you. Heartfelt thanks. Now, Lonnie, if you want to come up, Lonnie's got a recognition award that he wants to give to Katrina Jackson.
Yeah, I will keep the theme going, unfortunately. Katrina, come on up. So Katrina Jackson has served as the Assistant Chief Probation Officer for the last 6 years. I could say a lot, but I've got a few words written down. To sum it up, she has been offered and accepted a position with the Board of State and Community Corrections with the state of California. And so, unfortunately, she is now my former Assistant Chief. So before she went, I just wanted to say a few things and give this public acknowledgement to her. In the more than 14 years that Katrina Jackson served the county of Del Norte, employed by the probation department, she's filled many roles. Some of those were working graveyard shift in the juvenile hall, managing the whole facility, and supervising the juvenile probation services unit. And those things were just while she was assistant chief. Katrina began her career with the probation department in 2006 as a probation aide. Subsequently, she was promoted to a position as a deputy probation officer, eventually ending up as a supervisor before I had the honor to appoint her as my assistant chief in 2014. She has had the opportunity to impact countless lives of both our adult and juvenile offenders over the years, but her heart's always remained with our kids. Chief Jackson has been a steadfast champion for our staff, constantly striving to ensure that our department has continued to improve our service to our community, maintaining faith with the people that we serve and those that we serve alongside. She has inspired hope in people that believed all hope was gone, and she has shared her love for people unselfishly with those around her. She has held feet to the fire when it was needed, including mine, laughed often with the quirky sense of humor that officers must have to survive, struggled incessantly to find solutions to impossible problems when all good sense would tell most to give up, and exemplified the quiet professionalism that is a hallmark of the probation department. And now, as life often does, it's presented a new opportunity for her, and she has chosen to pursue it with all the passion that we have had the honor of experiencing from her. Before she embarks on this new journey, I wanted to publicly honor and recognize the significant role she has played in our community and in the probation department. Assistant Chief Katrina Jackson will be sorely missed as a chief, an officer, a colleague, and a friend. And we pitched in to get her something to remember us by. And we surprised her by people showing up too.
Right on.
Thank you.
Katrina, you want to say something?
I'm not one to say a lot in front of a lot of people. I've always kind of been in the background. But I do want to thank my department, my former department. It's been 15 years with a lot of you guys, and you guys really mean the world to me. They've been my family for 15 years, so I just want to thank them. Lonnie, you're a great chief. I appreciate every opportunity that you've given me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're running a little behind schedule, so we're going to open it up now for public comment.
Linda Sutter. Mr. Serena said that we don't need to, that we can go online to talk about the coronavirus and stuff, but here's the thing. What does the word pandemic mean to you? So whenever you look at an agenda item and you've got the word pandemic, the only pandemic that's going on right now is the coronavirus. So and then he finishes with as need to know basis. I disagree. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I on that? That's incorrect. I didn't say on a need to know basis. And what I asked was that people go to the public health site and get proper information so that we don't have panic and that we have that information out. Everything that's been put out there is the most recent information and will continue to be.
Most of us understood that. Thanks, Jay.
Hi, Robert again.
Hi, Robert.
Again, I really do feel we're really underestimating the impact here. Even if we don't get a case in this county, we can look and see what's happening in Seattle. The tourist-based businesses are in half. I think that there's like a will that we just don't want to lose it, so why talk about it? And I understand that we do have an Office of Emergency Services. I've tried reaching out to Mrs. Scott, and I'm sure she's very busy right now, dealing with this. This is a big deal. Last week I've been to the health department, basically just begging, and I've written every one of you and Jay to try and say, hey, we need to act now. Just to keep hand sanitizer and a couple masks in case sick people come in. Then we changed our policy. If you're sick, just please do not come in. I'm thinking about getting a thermometer to check people at the door. It's just very serious because we're doing nothing about it. I'd feel very comfortable if I saw us doing something about it. So in China, to contain it, they quarantined 50 million people. Italy, right now, they're quarantining 60 million people. We have elders here. We have an indigenous population. And it's upsetting to me to see our country selling us out for tourism, in our case, and for our Dow Jones. Our Dow Jones just saved 20% off over the last week. That doesn't mean nothing. That means people with money and resources are taking action. That means local lawyers are putting signs on their buildings right now saying, I'm not meeting with you in public. People who can are taking action. And so you guys are for the people who can't. So you can start thinking, do we need to activate the Stimson Fund for restaurants this year? They probably won't be able to make their rent. We have to start thinking about it now. It's very important. It's spreading. At the rate of growth, we will have infections here, and we will all be experiencing losses within our family that could have been prevented. All I've been asking of you guys is to make sure, Walmart understands the gravity of their situation since they serve every one of us so much. They're working sick people right now without sick leave. They've traded us out for self-checkout, and now they're going to give us the frickin' virus as well. You might think that this is extreme, but we can just look back. Italy was in our place 4 weeks ago. You can't fly in and out of Italy. You're not going anywhere around there unless you have something to do with keeping people going. I don't know what you guys can do. I've taken my child out of school. I do take this very seriously. These children are going to go touch each other, especially our elementary schools. They're going to spread it around. We're not going to know they're sick. They're going to go hug and kiss grandma. Maybe we can keep the high schoolers going, but the elementary schools kids are petri dishes that go getting hugs and kisses to everybody. You guys know this. Don't let the fear of what's going to happen stop you from acting now. Because I've written it off, our tourist season this summer. I'm surprised that we're not talking about it right now, at least the economic impact, which is even just sadder, because really what we need to do is save some people's lives here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Would this be appropriate time to discuss the Hunter Creek Park?
No.
Okay.
We're going to bring that up in a
Very
second.
good.
Not to say you can't, but I would like to hold that comment if you can until we get to it. It's on the agenda. Any other public comment? Seeing no public comment, then I'm going to close the public comment period, and we're going to move on. We're going to take up item number 6. Chris, you asked to have that pulled.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple things going on here. One, I haven't discussed with Ms. Detmar. I was never contacted by her of her interests, so that's number one. Number two is I currently have 3 District 3 representatives on the commission, and that they were only put on there because other districts didn't have folks that wanted to step up. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I'm certainly willing to take one of the multiple ones back into District 3 if there's willingness from the other districts to put those in that appointed position. But I just wanted to put that out for the board's knowledge, and also to seek how best to move forward with this. Not to say that Ms. Detmar wouldn't be good. I just would need to talk to her first before this item was on the agenda, and certainly have not done so at this time.
Okay, then by consensus, if we agree, we'll table this particular item until Chris brings this back to me and we put it on the agenda.
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay. So moving on to item number 14, introduced by title only, an ordinance adopting the state model water efficient landscape ordinance, waive further reading, set a hearing to adopt the ordinance, and designate county council to prepare a summary of the ordinance for publication as requested by the Director of Community Development.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. This is kind of a return of an item that I brought forward in 2009, which some of you may not have been here for or may have been aware of. Supervisor, Chair Hemmingson. Okay, so at that time, the Department of Water Resources had an option of a jurisdiction being able to adopt the Model Water Efficiency Landscape Ordinance. At that time, the board chose not to adopt it into the county code, but by default, we were to follow it. In 2015, the state amended the ordinance, made it a little more restrictive, and at that point, they added a reporting requirement. Because it wasn't in code, it kind of got lost in the fray. And we were recently reminded by Department of Water Resources that we needed to do the reporting. But we're taking this also as an opportunity to bring the code, the state law, into our code by reference, which will help staff be able to present this information to the public, and also by adding some additional information to the county's website to make it more transparent to the public, the requirements related to this law. Based on our past experience, most of the landscaping in Del Norte County, unincorporated Del Norte County, does not apply. Most people choose to not install in irrigation systems because of our plentiful rainfall typically. So I think adopting the ordinance, it's not going to change the way that we review the applications. And as I said, we actually have not had any permits subject to the ordinance since 2015.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Appreciate it. So, I do.
I'll make a motion on item 14, number 1, introduced by title only, an ordinance adopting the state model water efficient landscape ordinance. 2, waive further reading. 3, set a hearing and adopt the ordinance. And 4, designate county council to prepare a summary of the ordinance for publication as requested by the Director of Community Development Department.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this? Seeing no public comment, then we'll bring it back to the board. Any
Yeah,
further
I had
discussion?
a couple of questions. Heidi, if you come on back here, and also this is a legal question. Since we already have state law to back up this, what would be, and this may be a legal question, what would be the consequences if we did not adopt a seemingly identical local ordinance? What would be the consequences of that in what I can only refer to as rainforest precipitation in our county? What if we didn't do this? What would happen? You already have law to back up what we do.
We do, and I'd just like to add, because it just came to me as we were talking about it, SB 1383, the law that applies to the organic waste, this is actually a component of that law as well. That law is prescriptive and will likely have some repercussions if we don't follow it. And that, I'm sorry, I spoke with you yesterday, and that just came to me today.
I wanted to clarify this. In the absence of adopting another ordinance, which is duplicative, as I see it, what would be the consequences of this? And apparently, there are limited, if any. I mean, you're still communicating the information across, and perhaps, Liz, you can give us a little more clarification. We spoke on this yesterday. I'd like the public to know why we're adopting an identical ordinance to the state.
So this is the model ordinance that the state has put in place. So we either have to have this by 2015, or it applies by default, or we have to adopt something at least as restrictive or more restrictive. So if we don't adopt it, it will still apply in the county. However, it won't be codified. So when somebody that's going to look for a permit, or somebody that's thinking about developing, or our staff, legal of the future, it's not going to be easy for people to find it. And so just knowing that it applies by default is probably not the best service for our county constituents who might be looking as to what applies in the county. It's also more difficult for staff to know. It's kind of, word of mouth. We'll be putting it down. We'll be putting it on the website. It'll be in the code. Another thing is Public Records Act requests that we get. We may get more Public Records Act requests because it's not in our code, and those looking for whether or not this is something that's in place in our county or whether or not we're following state law might be more likely to send us Public Records Act requests kind of on this issue, because they can't tell from just looking at our code whether or not we're actually doing it. So it has applied since 2015. It's not going to change anything. We have to apply the ordinance or develop or create something more restrictive, or at least as equally restrictive. And for our county, since we don't have a lot of these issues with the drought that a lot of other counties have, the developing a new or more restrictive ordinance is probably not time efficient for our staff at this point.
Thank you. Anything else? Kylie, would you poll the vote, please?
Chair, can I just get a clarification from council on, it says to set a hearing to adopt the ordinance. Do you guys have to specify a date in the motion, or are we just assuming the second meeting?
Yes, we would ask for that to be at the next board agenda, if you like.
So I'll amend my, a motion to add that this be done at the next meeting, which is March 24th?
Correct.
And the seconder?
You okay with that?
Second.
Okay. Kylie, would you poll the vote, please?
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Since there are people here interested in speaking to the item number 15, I'm going to go ahead and keep this on the agenda, and we're going to discuss this item at least, which is adopt the attached resolution regarding the intention to donate said county-owned property, Hunter Creek Park, to the Yurok tribe. And so,
Chair?
yes?
I would
Or-
ask for whether or not it goes forward. Where it says "and" number 4, approve, that would be replaced with contingent upon approval of.
Okay. Contingent upon approval of. Jay, you want to start this thing off, or?
I can. The Yurok tribe had forwarded a letter of request asking that the property in question be transferred to the tribe for recreational purposes. The Board of Supervisors discussed that under real property negotiations in closed session and directed that it be placed on the agenda as such, and that was unanimous. It is on the agenda with some specific information, and as you'll see under 4 that council just referred to as a language change, indicates that it's for perpetual use of a park for public recreational purposes. And that was the intention, and that was the request of the tribe, and that's what we're here today for.
Yes, and we've had some great success with the ballpark down in the Klamath area that the Yurok tribe is now maintaining. We have difficulty in maintaining projects down there, so this is a great partnership. I think it's worthwhile. So we're going to open this up for public comment. Now's your opportunity, sir.
Greetings, all. My name is Paul Crandall, and I am the General Manager and Treasurer for the Hunter Valley Community Service District, the Water District. We oversee the Water District there in Hunter Valley. I rise today in opposition of the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors' proposal to transfer ownership of Hunter Creek Park, parcel number 127220050, to the Yurok tribe. I'm accompanied today by the entire Board of Supervisors, or Board of Directors from the Water District, as well as residents and landowners in Hunter Creek. They have questions, and I'd like to pose them to you, but I think another venue would be proper for the answers to be developed. Why was the land transfer never discussed with the residents and landowners of Hunter Creek in Klamath? We never heard a thing. Why were the landowners and residents never given an opportunity to voice their opinion? The land transfer is for recreational and community events, according to the Yurok tribe documents. This is viewed to greatly impact the peace and quiet for our residents who cherish such an environment in Hunter Creek. We're told the Del Norte County's Board of Supervisors proposed surplusing of the Hunter Creek Park has never appeared on the Board of Supervisors agenda before Friday, March 6, 2020. And a decision vote is scheduled only 4 days later today. What is the rush? It's a valid question. I've never seen anything move this fast. The community became aware of these plans through postings on Facebook. The Hunter Valley Community Service District has been faithfully serving Hunter Creek subdivision, its property owners and residents since 1965, and was not given the opportunity to have Hunter Creek Park transferred to the Hunter Valley Community Service District, which we have several properties that were deeded to us in 1965 and 1966. Why was that? Why was it never offered to us? In 2011, 2012, we applied for and received a grant for a new 20-kilowatt generator to run the Hunter Valley Community Service District water pumps and infrastructure during power outage. Our water tank is at ground level. When the power goes out, we're out of water. So 2 days after we got the generator back online, the power went out for 3 days. But we had water. This is the level of attention that both the community and the board of directors have exercised in the past. Members of the Hunter Valley Community Service District not only participate in the Neighborhood Watch program, but we proactively prevent illegal dumping on the shoulders, banks, and creek bed of Hunter
We're
Creek.
getting kind of
Sir,
we're getting kind of off the subject here, and your time's run out. But what is the objection? Can you give me the objection? This was meant to be a park that the county has never been able to provide. I think at one time we had equipment down there. Is that not right, Jay? But we're unable to continue to do that service. And the Yurok tribe has come up with a plan to do that with, which we saw no plan from you or your community services district. So I don't want to get in an argument about this with you.
Sure,
But
I understand.
What is your argument for us transferring this property so that we can see a park down at Hunter Creek?
Hunter Valley Park, or the park and the subdivision is off Yurok tribe land. They have no jurisdiction there. And so why weren't we approached? We never heard anything about this plan.
We didn't approach them. They approached us at the last meet. I think it was at the last meeting. They came up and asked us if we would do this. In closed session, we took this up. We looked into it. We've done it in the past. It's worked very well in the past. But what I would like to know is what your objection is to this particular project. That's all I'm asking. And I'm only asking.
That the community that this park directly surrounds has never been asked or never been approached or never been told that this was happening. And had we not seen it on Facebook, it would have gone forward, and the residents and property owners would never have known this has gone until it was laid on us, that it was lowered on us. The objection is we have a right to know what's going on in our neighborhood.
Okay.
We have a right to know why someone who has no jurisdiction is being considered to take over property within our jurisdiction.
Okay, understood.
Okay?
Thank
so
you.
I would appreciate if we could have a meeting in Klamath. Thank you very much.
Chair, I just want to clarify, this particular item wasn't brought, it wasn't on closed session. might be thinking of the ball field in the past.
Oh, yeah.
This particular one there was a letter from the council that went to the CAO, and then one of the councilmen came up last time and asked for it to be agendized, this is the point where it would be agendized.
Okay, here we are. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sally Rogers. I am a resident of Klamath and of Hunter Creek. I'm also a Wiyot tribal member out of Humboldt County. So I want to make this very clear. This has nothing to do with our Native brothers and sisters and them necessarily taking over it. This has to do with the fact that our community, our subdivision, was never informed. We found out on Facebook, and all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute. We have a fully functioning board who can take over the maintenance and the management of the park. We trust them. We believe in them. They have taken care of us in that community since 1965. And we have already got a soft promise from an organization who said that at their next board, they will get approval to give us some playground equipment if we are given the opportunity to have that property given to the Hunter Creek Valley Service District. So this happened Friday evening, and Paul Crandall, started making phone calls to all of our service district people. We have 64 properties that are within the subdivision. We were able to contact 89 of those. 89 of them have signed petitions and have said no. 89% of our members in Hunter Creek said no. We do not want to see the tribe given this piece of property to manage and to run. We would like it to be left with our community people, our service district. They are a nonprofit 501c3, which the tribe is also, and I understood that was part of the consideration as they were a nonprofit. This was one of the reasons. The Hunter Creek Valley Service District has been taking care of our community very well. They have never had any problems with misappropriation of funds when they've brought it in. They have always taken care of any need that we have in the community. We would like to see our park, because that's what we consider it. My family was the third family to move into Hunter Creek in 1972. My mom has lived there almost 50 years. I grew up playing in that park. My grandchildren now play in what is left of the park, which is just a swing set. We are 4 generations that live in that valley, and we have a lot of adults who were once children who played there, who have come home and said, we want to see something better for our Hunter Creek. And we have bought land. We own 5 properties ourselves that we are fixing up. The Collinses own property that they are fixing up. And we just feel that we were never given consideration. As property owners, nobody came and brought a survey, nobody came to our door, which is actually what I was told on the phone with somebody, that, oh no, this was already taken care of. We've already gotten the opinions of your community. No, our opinion was never brought forward. We were never asked what we'd even want to see there as playground equipment for our children. And so if you would like to see, we do have the petition that everybody signed in opposition of you giving this to the tribe. And if nothing else today, we'd at least like you to table this so that we can have a meeting with our representative and bring this out into the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear from the proponent, Ryan Ray.
Yeah. Just cool your jets for just a minute.
Good morning. Councilmember Ryan Ray, Yurok Tribe. I represent the Requa District and all the communities within Klamath. We have about 5 communities down there. We have the Klamath Glen, we have the Klamath Town Site, we have Requa, we have Hunter Creek, and there's one down there in Redwood Drive. We just installed a playground in the Klamath Glen. It's been a long time coming. About last year we did that. Last month, we just installed a full court basketball court down there. We got a basketball court in the town site. We got a playground in the town site. We're looking to install a playground in Requa, and this has been an ongoing concern or hot topic for a while about the park out in Hunter Creek. It's been I've came here before regarding this park about 5 years ago. We've talked about it last year, and I just kind of been seeing how things are going, and it's pretty much the same way. So that's why I brought it, and I proposed we got a playground. I apologize for the kind of the fast pace this has been going, because I brought it here because we have a playground sitting in our fish plant. We're going to install it somewhere down there on April 5th. It's going to be April 5th. By the 8th, it'll be installed. So I brought it to the board to propose a solution to this ongoing problem that is the Hunter Creek Playground. So it'll always be open to the public. It ain't about the land transfer. That's not what it's about. It's about getting a playground into that piece of land, and I mean, that's all it's about. So I'm not here to really, see who gets it. At the end of the day, it's about is to make sure there's recreation out there for the families that are out there. That's all it's about. So whoever does it is what it is. But at the end of the day, the goal is to just get a playground put out there, and there's about 20-25 kids out there that are probably doing a lot of screen time, this and that. But if we can get a park out there, get the families out there, maybe put up a barbecue pit, and get a place where people can hang out, would be nice. So if it's these guys that do it, if it's the tribe that does it, if it's the county that does it, at the end of the day, as long as it gets done. I mean, the tribe does right now have a playground that is a really big playground, ready to install it, but we really need to know if we're going to move forward or not. If not, we got to start to focus on a different piece of land and go that route. So it'd be nice to really, at the end of the day, it's just about getting a playground out there. For me, it's about getting recreation going on in Klamath. So if we can up or down, I mean, be great. So thank you.
Yeah, hang on just a second. Yep. I really appreciate your offer and coming up with a plan. We've been in this position for quite a while, not being able to service that park, and then you coming up with a plan, I thought was kind of a win-win thing. But I know there's other board members want to talk with you. Supervisor Cowan?
Saw the courts and the playground last week. Good job. Exactly. It came to us, and we just thought it was a good win-win plan. So I guess my question is, because I'm not sure where the equipment came from, if it was grants, does it have to go on tribal land? Can you guys be the partnership? Can you guys install it and they maintain it? Is that a potential? I mean, that seems like a win-win to me.
Yeah. It has to. One of the stipulations is it has to go on tribal land. We actually work with the Rotary Group out of San Francisco, right? They come down. They're not brand new. They reinstall, they paint them all up, and they refabricate the playgrounds, right? So we reinstall them, paint job on them. You've been to Peme, you see the park across the street from Peme? Just like that one, but this one's a lot bigger than that. So I don't know. So
at the end of Cedar.
Yeah, so one of the stipulations, it does have to go on tribal land. But I mean, if they have a playground, huh?
Can we double check that? I mean,
yeah, we got a kind of a council member that wants one down in Eureka, but one of the stipulations we can't. The reason we could do this one is because it's so close to the reservation.
Gotcha.
Ryan, what is the reason for the April 5th deadline? What is that?
Oh, that's when the crews, they're coming up on April 5th. That's when they're coming. They let us know a couple months ago that they'll be here on April 5th. When they actually dropped the playground off, they came up, they dropped it off, and said, we'll be back on April 5th. So at that time, we had another location kind of picked out for the playground, and it turns out that location is, because this playground, you have to drill about 100 3-foot holes in the ground to get this thing in the ground. And where we're going to install it is pretty much all boulders, all rock. So it's kind of that location is out of question for this particular playground. But they are bringing one up that is a lot smaller that we might be able to install. So it's either that we're going to install that smaller one, or we can install this big one. So in April 5th, we'll pretty much, after this meeting, I guess, we'll probably pretty much let them know what route we're going to go to install which playground where.
What about having a 25-year lease to the tribe to be able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, that'll work. I mean, I got my legal here. I don't see no problem with it. For me, getting a playground out there is the goal, is to, I've seen it all over social media and I've heard it for years and years, so I think that's the goal. I think if we can get there, I think it's a good deal.
So if we were to lease that land to the tribe for a playground for a certain amount of time, you wouldn't have any problem with that?
I would have to, I'm gonna have to leave that to my legal, because I don't really know with, what the individuals that are coming up to install, right? I'm not sure how that goes.
Okay.
The transfer would be good. I don't really, I have no objection myself personally, I don't. So personally, I don't have no objections to that.
Okay.
Ryan, I had a couple of questions. First of all, I've agreed with everything you've said. It's all about the kids.
Yeah.
It's all about families and kids enjoying what has had to be considered a mothballed park. It's not doing anything right now. We can't do anything with it, lack of funds. But I'm a little concerned with the process here, that we have a community in there that feels left out of the loop. I'm a little concerned about that. And I'm wondering if we put this tabled until the 24th meeting and then had a vote, that would mean that the folks down in Hunter Creek and Mr. Crandall, you and your group of people who've come up here to this meeting today would at least have your argument articulated through at least a couple of supervisors here going down. I'd like to see that process respected. So I would like to see this tabled until the 24th meeting. Now, does that conflict with a time deadline about declaring this, whatever I don't even know if we need to go changing to leases. I think we can move forward on the actual action item, but I'd like to see that the process is respected so that the community, which you're going to be serving in this immediate area, feels included.
Yeah.
And I see that omission pretty glaringly. So I'd like to see this tabled for the next meeting, the 24th. Is there a problem with that?
No, there's no problem with that. I think at this time we can table it till that deadline, and we'll just really have two options on the table. So if this one doesn't work, we're ready to go on the other one. So I think it works.
And I want to say that everything, your gestures you've done, I am totally respected and grateful for the tribe stepping up and doing this. And this may just be a fait accompli. It'll end up being this way. But the process, which is disturbing me, is that you have at least 89 people down in Klamath, which is a lot of people. Say we don't want you're ramming this by us, and that's not democracy. So I want to just say that to you.
No, I apologize for that. I mean, it's been like an ongoing issue for so long, right? It's been all over social media for years. I mean, I've been on council for 6 years, and it's been at the forefront of every conversation I've ever heard when it comes to Hunter Creek. So I kind of figured people knew about it, and nothing has been done for this long. So it has been a hot topic for a long time. From what I hear, the people I've talked to have talked about it. You probably heard about it a lot. So I apologize. I didn't mean to bypass any steps. It's just I thought everybody was aware of this. So.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Nobody else has stepped up until now, and now that you're interested, others are interested, and that's a little disappointing to me. But I do appreciate everything you brought through. Is it consensus that we want to table this, or do we want to move through it with what we've got here? You're good with table? Okay, so we're going to table that, and we'll expect Supervisor Berkowitz to set up a meeting between the Community Services District down there and you, and maybe we can get this thing resolved. I hope so.
Sounds good.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
I heard this, and I just want to confirm it. I heard from you guys saying that your interest is to keep it a park, to get equipment, to clean it up. So I would ask that in that meeting, that I know you didn't have a lot of time right now to put that together, but maybe you can now work on that and bring forward. Great, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Also, Sally, do you have those names that you can get to me? Or great.
Okay, we're going to move on to budget transfers.
Move to approve budget transfer items 02-12, 02-13, 03-01, 03-02, 03-03, and 03-04, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on these budget transfers? Seeing no public comment, We're going to bring it back to the board. Any comments or questions? Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, moving on. Item number 22, approve and authorize the chair to sign and send a letter of support to the Smith River Alliance Fisheries Restoration Grant Program application that would fund planning and design project aimed at upgrading 3 county culverts along Elk Valley Road, as requested by the Natural Resources Goal Committee. Taylor, you want to speak to this or get us fired off in the right direction?
Yeah, I'll just really quickly say that the Smith River Alliance approached the Natural Resources Goal Committee about acquiring a letter of support for their Elk Valley Road fish passage project. This would design 3 improvements to 3 culverts on Elk Valley Road. So I don't know if the Smith River Alliance wants to speak further to that, but the Natural Resources Goal Committee recommended that the board sign a letter of support.
Yeah, and just to say that this would not be these would not be priority projects for the county, and this is coming forward to us, so this is an opportunity, I think, for a long-term situation here. So I'm
Move to approve the letter of support, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment?
Thank you, Chairman Hemmingson and supervisors. You know, we always look for opportunities to partner. This is one to upgrade infrastructure, addresses public safety issues. I've had conversations with some of you about it, and it also has the potential to add a couple miles of important spawning habitat. So looks like a win-win. Thank you for the opportunity to partner. And I just want to introduce our project coordinator, Monica Schooley.
Hi, Monica. Welcome. Okay. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment. Kylie, poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, item number 23, approve the inclusion of a generator as a fixed asset purchase in the amount of $91,000 within the County Services Area 1 budget for fiscal year 2019-20 as requested by the Director of Community Development. Anything you want to add, Heidi? Okay.
No, nothing really to add. This ties in with the budget transfer request that you approved several items
Motion
back.
to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, Kylie, would you poll the vote, please?
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Did we hit everything, Kylie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome.